What's up, everybody? John Eric Pauli here with my MMA news, and today's guest just defeated Josh Wan Kim on Dana White's Contender series by a third round knockout. That was a little earlier on the season. It was week 5 of the season, season 6. Pleased today to be joined by Cameron Saaiman. Cameron, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate the time, and congratulations, man. Big victory.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, the experience was insane. So my life has for sure changed for the better. So thanks for having me on the show as well.
Yeah, man, no problem at all. And let's start with just kind of how you're feeling right now. Has it all sunk in? I know there's been a few weeks since the fight. There might be a little bit more time than maybe some others that I talked to right immediately afterwards. Has it all sunk in? Have you come to terms and realized, hey, man, I'm in the UFC?
Yeah, it is. It is still. It hasn't sunken in quite yet, like that much. I think it's still surreal. The whole experience was absolutely amazing, and it was a decade of hard work coming to this point. So, very relieved after a great result, and great to be back in South Africa. I miss home quite quickly, so it's nice to be back, having a little bit of a time off, and we are basically back in training, but having some time off, eating what I want, so I really can't complain.
So I want to talk now. I know we talked about emotions there. Has it all sunk in? I want to go back to that night in Las Vegas because whenever a fighter wins in the show, you're obviously extremely amped up. You get the contract. There's a lot of yelling and screaming, celebrating, all that good stuff. But there's
Yeah.
usually a moment where you kind of, afterwards you get back into the hotel room, kind of that moment where you kind of like, whew, okay. And you kind of like that decompressing moment. When you're in that moment, what was the emotions like right there in that point? Was it just like, man, I did this, my goal, my life dream, it's all right here? Like, what was kind of going on when you got back to your hotel room afterwards?
Honestly, yeah, massive. I think a massive sigh of relief. It was a thing just because of the amount of pressure going into a fight like that. There was a lot on the line, obviously, but also, it was kind of like a schoolboy mentality of like, oh my word, that was the coolest thing I've ever done. So it was really just one of those things of like, that was so cool. It was cool to be part of the whole experience. And I still couldn't believe it. It was really like something out of a movie for me. And it was a picture perfect ending. So I was so grateful for the opportunity, and obviously for how the evening went. I was very relieved, but I was also fanboying about the whole event, and the people we got to meet, and obviously meeting Boss Dana as well. So really just looking back at that and being like, okay, that's one of the greatest days of my life. I'll for sure not forget it anytime soon. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of those other specifics too about the fight, about Dana White's comments and all that. One last thing I want to ask you in terms of this whole entire celebration and whatnot. What was the reaction like when you got back to South Africa? I could imagine, like as soon as you landed, everybody was going crazy for you. Couldn't wait to see you. Just talk about that moment when you got to see your family and friends afterwards.
Absolutely amazing. I've said it multiple times. I think South African sports fans are some of the best fans in the world, and we in South Africa they take sport very seriously here. Especially like our main sports like rugby and stuff like that. But also now having people coming into MMA because guys like myself and Trickers are popularizing the sports in South Africa. So it was really cool to see all these people really band together and wish congratulations to a sport that is fairly new here. So it makes me so proud, and it makes me excited for what the future holds for future contenders coming out of South Africa. So yeah, the whole experience has been surreal, and South African sports fans are so generous. They back you 100%. So that adds motivation to the next fight and to the next date. So I really can't wait.
Yeah, man, it's nice that you have a whole country behind you there. And now let's kind of get into the exact X's and O's of this fight here. We'll start with the opening two rounds. It was a very close contest. You guys were really going at it. It was a fun one to watch. It was very strategic. You guys both had your moments. So let's talk first there. Those opening two rounds before the knockout in the third. Just kind of take us through kind of how you were feeling and kind of how you thought the fight was playing out up to that point.
Yeah. After the first round, I was like, okay, it was either a draw or I lost that round. I didn't think I won. I won the first round, so I was very honest with myself. And luckily, I have great coaches and people that won't they won't lie. They will be like, okay, we are behind. We need to catch up. But in terms of the first round, we were very surprised by how dynamic. Obviously, we know how good of a striker Josh is, but his movement patterns were quite weird in the sense of we trained for that, but he was very much quicker on his feet than I initially thought. So going after the first round, we had to make necessary adjustments to go to fifth and sixth gear in that second round, and I think that's where the momentum started shifting. After the second round, I asked my coach, what should we do? Should we take him down? Should we try and finish it on the ground? What's the plan? And he said, keep it standing. Keep it standing. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get that knockout. So it was great that I got to, second round. I felt great. Even after the fight, I felt great. But also being very present in the moment, even when the pressure was super high. And after my coach said, listen, you need to go out, third round, you need to go out, you need to knock him out, I looked over my coach's shoulder and I saw his body posture and I was like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to get out of the gates. So I stood up when the third round started, really tried to put on the pace and was looking for that exchange that would initiate the finish, and luckily that happened.
I was going to say, take us through that finish too. Like, what exactly did you see in that exchange, or what did you see right before it that kind of led to you landing that big shot like that and putting him away?
Definitely him breaking his base. Like we were able to put enough pressure on him so that he basically stood up quite straight. And like the combo that we landed, actually we have training footage of practicing exactly that sequence on the pads just like 2-3 days before. So it was really cool to see like the combos that we have been working on and the type of fundamentals we've been working on is actively paying off in the fight. So that that front hand uppercut is something I like to throw, even though I expose myself sometimes, and you could see that even in the exchange. He clipped me as I dropped him. So it was really one of those things that we have been practicing for so long, and just having him on his back foot against the cage was like, okay, now we can enter again with a super hard combo, and that was the one that landed. So yeah.
And just like that led to the contract there. And the big thing too was not only did you get a contract, Dana White really praised you afterwards. You really blew him away. He was so impressed with performance. Nothing but compliments from the boss. And it's something when he does it too, because he doesn't do it for everybody. He really had a lot of high things to say about you. What was that like, being able to hear from Dana White, having him give you all the compliments that he gave you?
It was absolutely amazing. I've been looking up. Obviously, he has changed the sport of MMA as an entity, and it is really cool to that is the hardest job interview I will ever have. And I'm just so glad it went the way it did, and obviously having Dana speak about what talents we have is really adding motivation to keep on proving him right. And so when we came back to South Africa, I didn't have a lot of time off. We're back in training and we're ready to eventually make that debut and make that a good one as well. So it's having him say that, and obviously been looking up to not only the organization but also to him for close to a decade. It's so cool to be able to meet him on that night, having to chat with him. And I think the Contender series is a great foundation and a great type of feeding channel to motivate guys coming into the UFC. So it was picture perfect, and it was so cool to meet him and discuss the fight. And I was obviously happy that he's happy. So it helps.
I bet, man. And the other big storyline with all of this, too, right? At 21, you are going to be, I forget if they had you listed as the youngest fighter on the roster, if it was the second youngest behind Muhammad Makayev. But either way, I mean, you're one of, if not the youngest guy on the roster. And that was kind of a big storyline coming into all of this here. I know you had mentioned before, right? South Africa, it's still a growing sport over there. Just how long have you been in this sport, and what's kind of it been like too, as you've been kind of growing up here with the sport and getting more involved with it, and just kind of seeing it grow through your eyes young in your career here?
Yeah, in South Africa, like I started with K1, like kickboxing here, and that's quite big here, and the wrestling on itself is also quite big, but MMA is fairly new, I would say. And we have like the EFC here, that is absolutely an amazing promotion to fight in. That's the promotion that obviously got me the opportunity to fight on the Contender series. So we have great talent here. I think our infrastructure for the, discovering that talent can be better, but it is amazing to see guys figuring it out, like even not having the resources that most countries have, and still being able to show up and really put on a show for the world to see. So it is absolutely amazing. And we also have a kids program, and because of this fight, seeing kids also enroll into the program as well has been absolutely amazing. So it really is having like a snowball effect from young. We see it in our gym, as well. We see a lot of new guys trying out the sports. If it's for them or not, that's up to them. But really just being curious about the sport of MMA, and that's really awesome. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's great that it's growing over there, and it's be nice to see a little bit of a wave these next few years of more fighters coming over, because obviously for the longest time it was Dricus du Plessis kind of leading the way over there. He was kind of the lone man on the totem, pulling out two guys now in the UFC. I do want to ask you about Dricus, though, because obviously he was the front man there in South Africa. Really, you could say he really is still the front man there, but he's such a nice guy. He's really down to earth. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him a few times now. Just what's he been like for you as a friend, as a mentor, as somebody to look up to, and just kind of how has he helped you with your career now to get you to this point where now you guys are the only two South Africans in the UFC?
It has absolutely been amazing. He has been an amazing mentor for me since I was 14 years old. That's when I joined Team CIT. So it has been absolutely amazing, and our relationship has also developed into, he was initially was my head coach, and then when I moved into our pro team, we were basically falling under the same coach, Coach Mortenay Visser, and still being able to train together every single day, getting to pick his brain on not only training, but everything that revolves around the sport has been very beneficial. And he is also someone that is very willing to teach. So it has really been a great motivating factor, not only for myself, but also for the rest of the team to, seeing that it is achievable. And if you put in the work, you will reap the rewards for that. So he has motivated a lot of guys that are training with us, and it's awesome. And hopefully I can do the same for the younger generation coming up now. So yeah.
And while we're on the topic of Dricus too, in case the fans out there haven't saw the news, because it is still fairly recent, it's been reported he's going to be fighting Darren Till coming up, I believe, in December. So I just want to get your thoughts on that matchup there. So obviously it's a big one for him. I know he's going to be super excited for it. Darren Till's a household name here in the UFC, so it's another great opportunity for him to get a lot of eyes on him, and I'm sure he's going to look to go out there and do what he always does and get another finish.
Yeah, I really do think that Dricus is a terrible matchup for Darren Till. I think Dricus finishes that fight fairly quickly. I've said it before as well. I think, Brad Tavares is one of the guys that I really rated in that middleweight division. And I think people saw what Dricus did against Brad Tavares. It was a dog fight, and he was the biggest dog in the yard that night. So I really hope they have verbally agreed. I really hope Darren Till shows up for that fight, because that fight really excites me. And I think that he's always chased finishes. I think that's how our whole team operates. We do not want to leave it to the judges. So I really think he's going to come back very hungry, and I think he's going to get a finish for sure.
Yeah, can't wait to see that matchup there either. And now I got one more thing for you before we wrap things up. I want to obviously end today with talking about you here. I know a lot of fighters that have been on the Contender Series so far this series are starting to get fights booked. Just kind of, what's the long-term layout here? When do you want to make your debut? Do you have anything in mind? And what's kind of the long-term plan here going forward? Do you want to be extremely active as possible here inside of the octagon?
Yeah, I've had a very active year so far as well. I've had 3 fights this year. I would love to fight on that December 10th card with Dricus. So that would really be the icing on the cake. If we can make that happen, we can travel as a team. We can travel at the same time. And as he moves into that top 10, which I know he will, I'll be making my debut. So I really hope that we can make that happen. And I want to go back to Vegas. So 10th of December, back in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. I think that would be my ideal. So hopefully we can get that done. I'm really pushing for it. So we'll see. So yeah.
All right, I got one more thing actually for you before we wrap it up. Now that you mentioned about you want to go back to Vegas, we had this conversation off air actually. So, right, Americans over here, we eat very well. You got the full Las Vegas food experience. Why don't you go ahead and give a shout out there because you were a big fan of the food here in the States.
Massive fan of the food in the States. It was really amazing. We like the snacks and stuff you guys have is absolutely insane. I think I had to pay extra luggage just to fly some of your stuff back to South Africa. So it was really amazing. Sour Patch Kids, Reese's, peanut butter cups. We don't have that stuff yet, and if you get it, it is super expensive. So I really smuggled a lot of stuff back into South Africa and finished it within maybe 2 or 3 days. So yeah, it was great.
I have to say, Reese's peanut butter cups are my all-time favorite. I find that appalling that you can't find them or they're expensive. They're only like $1 here in a grocery store. You guys really don't. No wonder why you guys are so fit and healthy over there. There's no candy laying around for you guys.
Yeah, we do have our own candies and stuff, but obviously the stuff we see in the movies are the stuff we want to try. So I was really like Pop-Tarts as well. Those things flew off the shelves quite quickly. That didn't last long. I ate a whole box myself, so it was really cool. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll be back over here soon. You get some more of those snacks there. Thanks again for doing this, man. It's been a pleasure. Last thing before you roll out, though, social media, so people know where to follow you at. You have any sponsors, any management, anybody got to give a shout out to? Floor's yours, man. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just Cameron Saaiman on all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that. And we also have a podcast, the MSP podcast. So if you want to go check that out, we talk about all things fighting. I'm still a massive fight fan. Nothing is going to change over there. We're still going to make bold predictions and probably not get it right every single time. So if you want to go check that out, that would be very cool. So yeah, thanks.
All right, Cameron, thank you so much for all the time here today, man. Really appreciate it. It's been great speaking with you. Can't wait to see what you're going to do here in the UFC. It's great to see you be now one of the leaders here in South Africa with the sport of MMA. Can't wait to see the growth out of that country as well. And just one last thing here before I roll out today. I just want to go ahead and thank everybody that watched today's interview. I really appreciate everybody that watched it today. If you like today's interview, please go to the bottom. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And MyMMANews.com. Make sure you guys have your tabs on the website. Go to our social media pages. Give us a like and a follow on there. If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at John Eric Poli. We'll see you later, everybody.